6, values, ethics, and advocacy. These are the beliefs about the worth of something, about what matters, and that acts as a standard to guide one's behavior. Value system is an organization of values in which each is ranked along a continuum of importance, often leading to a personal code of ethics. Code of conduct. Values influence beliefs about human needs, health, illness, the practices of health behaviors, and human responses to illness. So beginning on the bottom of 117, development of values, and then it extends into 119. So modeling, it begins with the second paragraph. Modeling is learned by children on what is of high or low value by the observance of parents, peers, and significant others. So those that are important to the children, they learn what's important values versus what are not important values by watching them. Moralizing mode of mode of value transmission are taught a complete value system by parents or an institution such as a church or a school that allows little opportunity for them to weigh different values. So it's a very structured environment, and they're basically saying this is right to do, this is wrong to do. Laissez-faire, beginning of the third paragraph. Those who use a laissez-faire approach to value transmission leave children to explore values on their own. No single set of values are present as best for all, and to develop a personal value system. So they basically allow the children to define what they feel is right, what they feel is wrong, and they're not providing any structure around that, but kind of just letting them find their own way. This approach often involves little personal value, little guidance, and may lead to confusion and conflict. Rewarding and punishing. So through rewards and punishment, children are rewarded for demonstrating values held by parents and punished for demonstrating unacceptable values. All right, and then we have responsible choice. So caregivers who follow responsible choice mode of value of transportation encourage the children to explore competing values and to weigh their consequences. Support and guidance are offered as the children develop a personal value system. Okay, so we have a true or false question. A child is born with values and forms new values during a lifetime from the information from the environment, family, and culture. And this answer is false. So children are not born with values. However, they form values during their lifetime. Either they're learned by observing, they're taught, or they figure it out on their own from just their own life experiences, depending upon what style is being presented to that child in reference to the value mode of transmission. Okay? However, they are not born with values. So professional values are on page 120. And we have some examples, and it also has an area with some questions for you to self-reflect. So, altruism, you should know that one. It is a concern for welfare and the well-being of others. Very simply put, being concerned about others. Know what altruism is. Autonomy, the right to self determine. That's one I would probably know. Human dignity, respect for in earth worth and uniqueness of individuals and populations. Integrity, acting according to code of ethics and standards of practice. Social justice, another one you should know, upholding moral, legal, and humanistic rights. Again, there's a table on page 120, that's table 6-1 for professional values. So these are three main activities of valuing, or three ways that you can show that you value something. So when nurses understand that values motivate patients' decisions and behaviors, then they can tap into these value um, activities, right, to help motivate our patient to do what they need to do for their well-being. So choosing is one, prizing is another, acting is the third. So choosing is choosing freely from alternatives after careful consideration of the consequences of each alternative. That's choosing. Prizing is also considered treasuring, and prizing involves pride, happiness, and public affirmation. Okay, so positive feedback, right? Acting, combining choice into one's behavior with consistency and regularity on the value. I have a question. Which value involves acting in accordance with an appropriate code of ethics and accepted standards of practice? Okay, so we have A, altruism, B, autonomy, C, human dignity, D, integrity, E, social justice. So this value involves acting in accordance with an appropriate code of ethics and acceptable standards of practice. Give you a minute. And the answer is D, integrity. Integrity involves acting in accordance with the code of ethics and accepted standards of practice. Altruism is concern for the welfare of others. Autonomy is the right to self-govern or self-determination. Human dignity is respect for the worth and uniqueness of individuals and populations. Social justice is upholding moral, legal, and humanistic principles. So I would suggest that you know all these terms, especially the ones I indicated earlier. Ethics and morals. So ethics begins on page 122, and it is a systematic study of principles of right and wrong conduct. So that includes virtue versus vice, good versus evil, and they relate to conduct and human flourishing. So bioethics is an umbrella term where many fields are grouped under that umbrella term, and it is considered the rubric for life sciences. So it leads a person to ask questions about who they are, right? What kind of person am I? What duties and obligations I have to others or to the public, right, to do good. Then nurse ethics, which is a subset of bioethics and is a formal study of ethical issues that arise in practice of nursing and of the analysts used by nurses to make evaluations and ethical judgment. Okay. Morals, personal and or communal standards of right and wrong. On page 122, under theories of ethics, it talks about these two principles. You must know these two principles and the difference between the two. Special attention to utilitarian. So utilitarian is the rightness or wrongness of an action depends on the consequences of the action. So the utilitarian is focused on helping the most people. And if it helps the majority of the people, then they're going to do it. Whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. It's about helping the most or the majority. Deontology is an action that is right or wrong, independent of its consequence. So deontology is focused on just doing what's right. Okay? Even if it's only helping the one person and not benefiting the others or even possibly harming others, they're going to do what's right by that one person in that particular circumstance. On page 123, table 6-2 talks about principles of bioethics, and it has a chart that lists the first 5 that are listed here. It talks about the moral rule as well as how you will implement this in nursing. So I would read this table, make sure you understand it, and make sure you understand how you would apply it to nursing in case you're given a scenario and you need to determine if they're using autonomy versus beneficence. All right, autonomy is respecting the rights of your patient to make their own healthcare decisions, right? So empowering your patient to make their healthcare decisions. Make sure they are informed. Non-maleficence is avoiding causing harm or the oath to do no harm. Beneficence benefits the patient. Okay. So you want to do what's beneficial to the patient. It sounds very similar to non-maleficence, but non-maleficence means that your intentions are never going to be to harm the patient. Okay? And beneficence is doing what is beneficial for the patient. Justice, give each their due and act fairly. So you want to be non-judgmental and you want to care for everyone equally. So nursing adds a few terms to bioethics. So we have fidelity, so establishing a trust relationship, right? And then veracity, which is basically just being honest and truthful. Accountability, so you want to be held accountable for your actions, whether you made an error or whether you did well and you care for your patient well and there was no error. And you want to be able to hold your patient accountable for their health decisions, right? They may be making decisions that are not beneficial. You want to advise them that may not be beneficial, or they may be making decisions to comply with the plan of care that are beneficial. So you want to hold them accountable for their decision making in reference to their health care and their health outcome, and you want to be accountable for your part in their health care and their health journey. Privacy. So you want to maintain HIPAA, confidentiality as well, right? So you want to make sure you give them privacy when you're providing care, and you want to make sure you maintain HIPAA with their health records and diagnoses and everything pertaining to their stay or their visit. So the care-based approach is on page 123, the bottom paragraph. The nurse-patient relationship is the central part of the care-based approach. Okay, it directs the attention specifically to the situation of the individual patient, viewing them within context of the life narrative. So this approach cultivates responsiveness to your patient or to others, right? And it also redefines the fundamentals moral skills to include virtue. Okay, so you are giving of yourself, making this person or this patient the center of your focus for care, right? So they're the center of attraction, and you're promoting dignity and respect while doing that. Ethical conduct is on page 124. So ethical conduct is practice based on professional standards of ethical conduct as well as professional values. Nurses should cultivate the virtues of nursing, understand the ethical theories, and be familiar with the code of ethics for nurses and the standard of professional nursing conduct. Moral agency, it's on page 124 as well. And it is the capacity to be ethical and do the ethically right thing for the right reasons. So there is no official list of virtues for nursing. However, on page 124, it does list these words that are often associated with nursing or nursing care. So competency, compassionate, caring, subordination of self-interest to patient interest. So you don't want to focus on yourself, but you want to shine the light on the patient's focus, the patient's interest, make your care patient-centered. Self-effacement. So self-effacement, very similar to the bullet above. You want to make sure the patient is the center of your focus, and you want to make sure that you are not presenting in yourself as more important than the patient needs, right? So the patient is the reason that we're there. Trustworthiness, conscientiousness, intelligence, practical wisdom, humility, courage, integrity. Page 126. The ANA Code of Ethics for Nursing serves the following purposes. Okay. It is a succinct statement of ethical obligations and duties of every nurse. It is the professional, non-negotiable ethical standards. It is an expression of nursing's own understanding of its commitment to society. So this is the basic standard as a nurse, okay? And this is ANA Code of Ethics for Nurses. So for the previous slide, there is a box 6-2 on page 126. It talks about American Nurses Association or ANA Code for Nurses. Okay, I forgot to mention that. All right, so ICN is also listed on page 126. ICN stands for International Council of Nursing, and they have guidelines for code of ethics for nurses as well. So their guidelines include studying the standard, reflect on the standard and what it means to you, discuss the code with coworkers and others, use specific examples from experience to identify ethical dilemmas and standards of conduct, work in groups to clarify ethical decision making. So most hospitals do have an ethics committee. So if there is a situation that had could possibly be an ethical issue, or the decision for care can't be made because of these ethical issues around it, the committee will review it before it goes further and goes into like a court system where the judge will make a ruling. Collaborate with other professionals to apply standards in practice, education, management, and research. So these are guidelines for conduct from ICN.